Hello, everybody. We're here. We did it. We're talking about Hocus Pocus 2. I'll save you some time. If you watched my video on the first one, it's pretty much that again. First note, more Salem crap. I mentioned this in my first one. I think it's not only lazy but insensitive to use real life tragedies as jumping off points for your comedy. And, not to put too fine a point on it, but if you watch my other video, right? And if you heard me say that, descendants of those people are still alive and still around and probably don't appreciate it, if your reaction to that was that either, oh, nobody really knows, people don't keep track that far back, blah, 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 blah. I just want to point out, Sarah Jessica Parker, one of the three leads in these films, is a descendant from citizens of Salem at that time. One of her ancestors was accused of witchcraft and fled Salem. Thankfully was not murdered. But that's how very possible it is that people have an attachment to that very real world thing. And we are once again using it as a jumping off point for a comedy film. I don't think that's cool. This happened in the first one. It bothered me more in this one. The way that not only the witches, but because we have an extended 15-minute prelude in Salem, the way that these characters speak is inconsistent. And yes, it's a comedy. Maybe a parody. I can't tell. So, I don't expect it to be 100% accurate, but the way that the dialogue is written, it feels as though somebody just wrote regular modern dialogue and then did find and replace with certain words, and they changed you to thee and your to thy and a couple things like that. But for the most part, they just speak like modern people. So just have them speak like modern people. Have it be some kind of spell that happens or whatever. But either commit to it or don't. Or the best option, break it when it's funny, right? Intentionally break it in certain parts for humor purposes. But it's just really lazily done, which to me is distracting, because they clearly want you to think that they're speaking period appropriate, but they're not really, not in any significant, meaningful way. There were a couple jokes in this movie that I actually laughed at. I didn't laugh at all in the first one. There were a couple jokes in this one that I laughed at. The first one being, "We are not here." When the townspeople are knocking on their door and, is it Mary? No. What's the other one? I can't remember their names. Sarah. Because it's Sarah Jessica Parker. Her character's name is Sarah. They're knocking on the door and they're like, hide, be quiet. And she goes, "We are not here." And it's stupid and it's dumb, but it works for that character. Good joke. Way to go. You made me laugh. Then we get to the spider scene. And in my video for the first one, I had a lot of other parody videos, movies up here behind me. And all I could think of during the spider scene was if you had and again, this is a matter of taste, right? None of this is factual. This is an opinion. But for me, if you had somebody like a Will Ferrell or a John C. Reilly go really, really absurdly over the top with that spider scene, I can imagine a version of that scene that has me literally falling out of the chair because I'm laughing so hard. This wasn't it. I didn't even laugh at this one. I understood this is supposed to be really funny, Like, I get the logic there. The actor, to me, the delivery just wasn't there. The actor didn't sell it. And I feel like if you had... My dogs are making strange noises. If you had really committed to, like... It just... I could see the missed opportunities throughout this movie. And that was the first really, really big one. We get a callback to it later when they set his house on fire. And he's like, this is the work of the spider. Which, again... If I had been losing it the first time in the first spider scene, that would have made me laugh again. But I was like, oh, right. Okay. Like, I understand that it's supposed to be funny, but I don't find it funny. I don't know if you can hear my dog, but she is hacking something up. What does this say? Okay, so... The main sisters, in their adult form, played by the main actors, don't show up until about half an hour into this movie, which I think is way too long. But the first 15 minutes or so are this weird prequel, right? With these young kid actors, and I think the kid actors do fine. I was worried when you see the kid playing Winnie from behind. I was like, oh, this isn't going to go well. I think she actually did a pretty decent job at it, though, surprisingly. But I kind of realized later on in the movie, the first movie, they're witches, right? Where does that power come from? Who cares? Doesn't matter. They use the Salem nonsense to jumpstart their movie. And so you don't really think about it that much. But in this one, they really highlight, we need to tell their origin. Why? Doesn't matter, right? No one cared about it. But we're going to tell their origin now. How do they get these powers? They got it from this other witch. But as the scene is going on and as the movie is going on, I'm like, well, where did that witch get her powers? So they spend 15 minutes answering this question that, as far as I know, nobody has asked. But they don't really answer it. They just back it up a step. Where did the witches get their powers? Where did all that come from? Oh, from this other witch. Well, where does she get her powers? Shut up. And that witch doesn't come into play at all later. I thought, semi-spoilers for this movie, I thought maybe she was going to tie in with one of the other characters in this movie. Because, again, there's more magic nonsense that's not explained at all. But nope, she's never mentioned or referenced again. I think there is a implication about her towards the end of the movie that I'll get to. But it doesn't really matter. So this nearly 15 minute prelude, to me, serves no purpose. And I've watched another review on this movie already. And they seem to think that it helps flesh out the characters and give more depth to them and help explain things that happen later on. I disagree. And I'll get to that when we get to the stuff at the end. To me, it was pointless and a waste of time. And unnecessary waiting for the main three to come back. Okay. So, then we get this scene in the magic shop with, what's his name? Gilbert. And he's doing this presentation, storytelling thing, right? Talking about, they say that 29 years ago, these sisters came back. And everyone's like, what? Nuh-uh. And he's like, yeah, some people say that they saw them flying across the moon. And I was just like, did nobody find the 7-hour-long dance party that all the adults were stuck at? Did nobody find that noteworthy? Did none of those people talk about it after? Was that completely forgotten? Because you would think, even if nobody else saw the events of the witches unfolding, you would think that would go down as at least as some kind of footnote that, hey, something weird happened tonight. The fact that these people could not stop dancing for an entire work shift. And it's just not mentioned at all. Which seems a little odd to me. Then I wrote another song. The witches sing a song when they first come back. That's not the song I have the biggest problem with. I mean, again, it just doesn't make sense because they're singing a modern song in modern styles, and canonically, the only modern music they've heard was at that party from the last one, where they heard the one song, and then they immediately learned that one by heart and changed the words to it and improvised on the spot. But now they're like showing understanding of much more modern music, and just the lullaby is fine, right? The lullaby is a traditional style that would make sense for them to know, or at least would make more sense for them to know and understand. But it makes no sense. And it's not, it's like, it's kind of a joke the way it's presented to us, the audience, and they got the dance and the blah blah, and it's like, it's supposed to be fun, but it's not absurd enough to make it a parody level for me. Whereas if it was, then I would forgive it more. But it's in this weird middle ground where it's dumb and stupid and doesn't make sense, but not so dumb and stupid and nonsensical that it's funny to me. My next note just says those book straps aren't doing much. So book is strapped down in this case, and we see it trying to escape, and it can't, which is weird because the book straps are all going one direction. You know what would happen if you tried strapping down a book where all the straps are going the same direction? It could slide out. And there's clearly enough slack as it's jumping around that it could slide out. If they had put straps going the other direction, it would have made sense that it couldn't get out. And is this a nitpick? Absolutely. But, the last movie, I appreciated how much attention they paid to that drum set. And here, it's just like, why doesn't it just get out? It clearly can. My next note just says break, because the sisters have a little huddle, and then they break like a football team. How and why would they know what that is? Makes no sense. Next positive note. Next thing that actually made me laugh was the automatic door at Walgreens. Now, I had my other review that I watched, the person complained about the Walgreens thing. I didn't love or hate most of the stuff actually in the Walgreens, but that scene with the automatic doors where they were going in, I thought was pretty funny. Could have used more of that, where they're confused by modern technology and confused about modern society. Whereas most of the time they talk normal, they sing, they talk other than a few words, they speak in modern speech, they have an understanding of modern music and can perform that flawlessly. I hate that stuff. I wish there was so much more about them being confused about things. So I really liked the bit with the doors. Case in point, very shortly later in that scene, we get this thing where they see themselves in the picture of the on the phone, but then they see themselves in the mirror and they're like, "Oh, she's been lying. We don't actually look good." It's like, just explain how the mirror works. You've been tricking and lying to and deceiving these witches up until this point, and now telling the truth will let you continue that. Just tell them that that mirror is not accurate and go up and show yourself in that mirror, and then they will see, oh yeah, that's not accurate, that's weird, it's a cursed mirror, right? Say anything. But for some reason, that, which should be the easiest thing to explain away, is the one thing that trips Becca up. It makes no sense. And then they leave, and I saw this on the poster, and it's like, haha, it's funny, right? Because they leave Walgreens, one's got a broom, one's got a Swiffer, and one's got Roombas like roller skates. But in the actual scene, how would they know what those are? I mean, we don't have any kind of context whatsoever for what will and won't work for them to fly on, right? Classically, it's a broom. Why? Why is it a broom? I don't know. We're not told. Doesn't matter. Not really. In the last movie, the mop and the vacuum are just like in that closet with them. And so it doesn't really, it's not that much of a stretch to just, oh, it's a thing that's vaguely that shape. Let's use it. Again, I have no idea why broomsticks or cleaning products, right, supposedly work this way. But they just leave the store. One's on the broom, one's on the Swiffer, one's on the Roomba. How would they know what a Swiffer and what a Roomba is? Right? The last one, like I said, they're just there in the closet. They're vaguely the same shape. But, like, is a Swiffer gonna be next to a broom in a Walgreens? Maybe. But, like, Swiffers are normally, aren't they usually sold in a box? So you would just see the box, not the actual Swiffer. You wouldn't understand that it's a mop. I'm willing to let the Swiffer slide because it's the same generic shape, right? It's just the thing to write on. The Roombas are what get me. Because not only are they not the right shape, but there is absolutely no way you can convince me that they would understand. You know, maybe there has to be some element to the things that they write on cleaning, right? I don't know why. Doesn't make any sense to me, right? But maybe they can be like, oh, it's a tool used for cleaning, and so that means that... You cannot convince me that they saw Roomba, again, gonna be in a box, and somehow understood that that was a newer version of this thing that they flew before. How do they know to even try to use a Roomba? She says something about the guy in the store saying something about it, but like, how would that... I don't understand how you get from A to C, right? The B part in the middle there, they didn't show it because it makes no sense and it would never happen. And that would be dumb enough as it is. But then, I'm having trouble recalling this exactly. But there's a scene in the movie where they're all trapped within a salt circle. And the Roombas start coming up. First of all, how are the Roombas getting to them? Right? Like, okay, fine. They have a mind of their own. Ha ha ha. Roomba have like, right, an exploratory feature where they'll kind of go and roam on their own. But the coincidence of them randomly roaming around, both exactly following the same path and getting to the witches, is a whole nother level of, I can't buy that. And then I wrote the note when I assumed I knew what was going to happen. And thinking back on it now, I can't specifically remember seeing this happen. But I feel like that's got to be what happened, because I don't know how else it would have went. But, like, the Roombas sweep up the salt, right? Is that what happens? Because they're trapped in the salt, and the Roombas are coming up the street. And so, you put two and two together. That's got to be what happens, right? Again, I don't specifically remember seeing that happen. But I can't remember how they got out of the salt circle. So I'm going to assume that that's correct, in which case both of those two stupid nonsensical things of how they even knew what to use a Roomba for in the first place and how did the Roombas find them, at that point it's not just dumb stupid jokes that don't really make any sense. It's dumb stupid jokes that don't really make any sense and have a huge influence on the plot if that's how they get out. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I've misremembered. Still stupid and nonsensical, but I'm pretty sure it's stupid and nonsensical, and it drives the plot forward, which makes it 10 times worse when your plot is driven forward by stupid, nonsensical stuff. Oh, what else do we have? We have this immediately going back on her, you know, where she says early on, you know, because they show up half an hour in. She mentions early on, after they reappear, that if we see any teenagers, we're going to kill them right away. And then the first chance they have to do that with Becca, they're like, oh, a quick death is too easy for her. Put her in the dungeon. Why throw in that first line if you're not... Like, I get that you're not going to do it, right? Because that's how movies work. That's fine. But you can't then highlight that and put in a line specifically going against that just to... Oh my gosh, that frustrated me so much. I have a note that says, of all the kids that actually saw them that night, they write a new character for Gilbert. Those witches were walking all around town. Big performance on stage. This is in the original movie, right? And you could have said that any one of those kids was the one that became obsessed with bringing them back. But instead of any of those kids that we actually saw in the old movie, they retcon, put in new scenes from apparently happening that night of this little tiny Gilbert and make this new character go. Why did it have to be a new character? Why did there have to be new scenes put in? You could have just picked anyone. Even if we didn't see it, you could have just said that, oh yeah, this kid was on the street. 3 kids rode off on their brooms. It could have been any of those. Oh my. Why do you unnecessarily add and retcon when you don't? It does that. The fact that it's Gilbert adds nothing. It could have been anyone. And then I have Gilbert saw them, right? He followed them all night, saw them kidnap Dinah, saw them try to kill Dinah, saw them fight these other kids, Max and Allison, saw this whole thing, and yet Gilbert thinks that they're good and they were just misunderstood in their time. How does that happen? Then I wrote another frickin' song. Because at this point, the songs are just infuriating me. And, like, the song should be the fun part, right? And, like, yeah, I'm grooving along. And, yeah, I'm enjoying watching this entire town of people dance down the street. I like the part where they're like, wow, they're really, really slow. Like, that should be the best part. It just makes no frickin' sense. And they just keep doing it. And it upsets me. Then they're in the mayor's house. And they go in. And there's some commotion. And then the Alexa starts talking to them. And there's several seconds of an Alexa joke. And I had to rewind it. Because I assumed, since we all know how those things work, that they said something that sounded like Alexa, which would have then, I'm sorry if I'm setting yours off, which would have then prompted it, had it listening, and then they did whatever commotion, and it was like, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Blah, blah. So I rewound it, because I was like, what did they say that was supposed to sound like that? Nothing that they did or said sounded anything like that word. And, like, how hard is it to come up with something that sounds like that, especially when you're magical witches and a bunch of what you say is mumbo jumbo, not real words anyway? They could have said anything that even kind of sort of sounded like that word, and it would have made that joke make sense. But no, it's just a stupid joke that's there, and it doesn't make sense, and then it's gone. Oh, the third joke that made me laugh. And I think this is the one. Is this the one that made me laugh the most? No. The one that made me laugh the most was just when the mayor started laughing. When they talked about Cassie bringing 10 flashlights. And he just lost it. And then I laughed because he was laughing. It wasn't even that funny. It was just, that was infectious laughter. But when he tells them to spread out and Sarah just starts stretching, I thought that was really funny. I wish there was more just humor based just on the characters, not stupid Alexa crap. Oh, okay. Then, again, spoilers as we're getting in towards the end. Turns out Becca has magical powers. And I wrote, how does Becca have powers? Shut up. That's how. Because, again, it's not explained. I thought they were going to tie her in with the original witch. But nope. She just has powers. Just because. She just does. Then, this whole incantation for the big power spell, right? Again, they make a point earlier in the movie to talk about how you have to do it 7 times. And what is it, Mary? The third sister's name. She has this line where she's like, oh, I hate those. If you mess up once, you got to start all over again, right? Kind of a funny joke, right? And then you get the first time they're trying to do the incantation, where Winnie's doing the main part, and then the sisters are doing the chanting on the side. Mary, I think that's her name. I'm going to call her Mary. She messes up, right? And it seems like it's a callback to what they were talking about before, but they just keep going. And that doesn't affect them at all. And why would you put both of those things in if it doesn't matter? Then they get interrupted, right? Big fight, a bunch of other stuff happen, and then they go back and they start doing the incantation again. And number one, there's no indication that they had to restart again, which again, why put in that line? Like, those things on their own wouldn't have not bothered me if not for this very specific line that they put in earlier. So A, not only is there no indication that they had to start over again, but B, the second time we see them doing it, the sisters are not doing the chanty bits. It's just Winnie doing the main part. There's no... And so I expected it to not work because that's what the movie told me would happen. But then it did work because the movie is not consistent with its own logic. Oh my goodness. Then we get to the Thanos moment. Thanos on, is it Vormir? Vormir? Whatever that planet is where he throws Gamora off the cliff, because we get the same problem. Thanos did not really love Gamora, so he should not have been able to sacrifice her to get the Soul Stone. Winnie has shown, and you know, they do this stupid thing that movies do, where they make it abundantly obvious 5 minutes prior in the movie, where she says, oh, they're just my lackeys, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward 5 minutes. Oh, I love them so much. I can't do anything without my sisters. I don't buy it. And this is what I think the other reviewer I watched was talking about when he showed them in the past. Or when the movie showed them in the past, and it's like, oh, if they're going to take my sisters away, I'll do anything to be with my sisters. But it's like, she wasn't giving anything up with that. And she clearly, none of her actions or words or anything throughout both of these movies show that she cares about them as sisters. She appreciates them as good and loyal minions, henchmen, underlings. I forget what she calls them, but she very clearly insults them. And then we're supposed to buy at the end that she loves them so much she would give up her power for that. I don't buy that. I would buy that she was upset that she lost some very loyal servants that she had a lot of history with, but she would just go with her newfound power and make more ones. That's what would be logically consistent with what we've seen throughout both movies. This whole, oh no, I'm going to give up my power so I can be with them. I love them so much. That comes out of nowhere. That is not earned. That is not built up in any way. And I think that's why I dislike this movie so much more, is that it constantly puts in these lines that it then contradicts earlier. It sets itself up for one thing and then absolutely does a different thing. And I don't buy the ending. Then my last note was about the original witch. Is it, maybe it's just me and my interpretation, but it seemed like to me they were inferring that the original witch had done that power spell. And that's why, A, she knew how dangerous it was. B, the book knew how dangerous it was. And C, her coven was gone. Right? Because she never actually says what happens to her coven. And it's like, it's almost this full circle thing, but none of it matters. It doesn't matter in any way. We still don't know anything about the original witch or where her powers came from. We still don't know anything about how Becca got her powers. She shared them with Cassie and the other Izzy. But does that mean that now those girls have powers on their own, or can they only Guardians of the Galaxy do it if they're all holding hands together? None of it makes sense. None of it's logical. which again, it's not a serious movie. So why am I critiquing it for this? Because it's also not absurd or funny enough to be good parody. So I'm sorry. Call me a hater. Not a fan. Not a fan of either of these. I would say particularly this one. I think I disliked this one more because there's more specific things that I can pick and pull out from this one. The first one, it was just like, I don't know where it is, blah, 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 kind of, but this one, the contradictions. We're going to kill a teenager. Oh, we're not going to kill that teenager. Oh, we have to do the incantation right. No, it doesn't matter if we do it right. The things that it sets up, doesn't follow through on. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. So, you can disagree with me. That's fine. You can tell me that I'm a buzzkill or take it too seriously. That's fine. But this is not something that I would enjoy watching again. There was one song I liked. It wasn't one of the ones that they sang. It was the Skeleton Sam, which I looked up, and it's like an old song. It wasn't made for this movie, but I'm gonna check out that song. I kind of liked that vibe, and like, you know, the if you just took out that scene where they enchant the town, separate of any of this other context, I like that scene. I think it's funny. The dancing is cool, right? Not cool, but you know, well done. So like, I like that thing. Just doesn't work at all in the greater context. I'm gonna stop talking now because I've already made people mad by having a different opinion. You know, I don't begrudge. Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't care if you liked it. That's fine. I'm not going to say that you're dumb or you're stupid or you're wrong. I'm saying I don't like it. I don't think it's very good. So that's going to do it for me. I think next up is going to be some Phantom of the Opera stuff. I think I got 3 different versions of that coming next week. So going way back in time. Oh, but we're going to hit the Joel Schumacher one. People have opinions on that. I'm going to make more people mad with that. But that's all I got for today. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.